Hello friends, and I'm back. This is Nagaraju, and I have 9 years of experience. I've been working on all these 9 years on various BI technologies, and I've been working on Power BI for the last 4.5 years, and very recently started attending some interviews. And today the topic is going to be stored procedures and Power BI. So this is the question which has been asked very recently for me, and a couple of my friends also faced the same question, and they told me that this question is being asked. Yeah, this is very important actually. If you are able to answer this particular question, it not only gives an impression to the interviewer that he understands that you are very good at databases, and as well as you know how to integrate the database objects in Power BI. So that's going to give some stunning impression in the mind of the interviewer. So this is going to be very important, bit lengthy, because we need to create some stored procedure in the database, then we need to execute that, and we have to connect it to the Power BI and see the results, how it is going to be. Bit lengthy, but it's worth watching. Absolutely, there is no doubt. Let's understand. The interviewer can ask you, have you created any stored procedures in the database, and how have you created? What are the at least give me one scenario where you had to create the stored procedure. Or else he directly asks you, like, explain one scenario where you have accessed stored procedures from Power BI. So explain me one such scenario. So these are the two ways that uh, the interviewer can ask you. As a Power BI developer, you need to understand why a stored procedure is particularly needed. uh, Say for example, let us understand that, so there is a table in the database, and it has, let us assume it has some millions of rows. And when you are creating some visual, in the Power BI, you don't need all those 100 millions of records. You may be requiring only 3 to 4 millions of rows. uh, you know that's one case, and that's the first case. And the second case is going to be, the databases are generally designed to handle large volumes of data. That is, exclusively there are engines in the databases. Even if you have written some complex SQL, databases have uh, more intelligence than the reporting tools to understand the query, and process the query with a lot of data, huge data. So what is happening from Power BI point of view, when you have such need, like very complex code with a lot of data, you are just can push that particular logic to be processed in the database from application Power BI. So here Power BI is just sitting outside and looking at the database and giving some command to the database, saying that, hey database, I have this complex problem, and could you please process this particular thing and give me just the result. I am not worried about how you are doing. So we are just pushing down the logic to the database and just accepting the data back in Power BI and utilizing it for the sake of reporting purposes. So those are the two purposes where we go for sprocs, stored procedures. And if you can specify these two things, that is more than enough in the interview. That itself speaks that exactly, so what is the purpose of stored procedure, and how you are accessing it, from how you are taking advantage as a Power BI developer, the database engines and everything. So let's come back to the whiteboard, and you can create, the question can be from the interviewer point of view: have you created the stored procedure? Are you just asking the database team to create it? The better answer can be, yes, I have created. That should be the better answer. You just practice some 3 to 4 stored procedures, that is more than enough, because the styling, everything is same. So there are two things, if you are developing, if you are creating the stored procedure, there is some standard procedure that the industries are following. You just can go ahead and into the dev environment, and you just can create whatever the stored procedure that you need. But if you follow these two steps, actually two checks are there while creating the stored procedures. Even that gives a very good understanding to the interviewer that yes, you know it very clearly. So there is difference, right? You know it and you know it very clearly. So the first check is like on the stored proc. You have to check while creating if whatever, for example, I'm going to create the stored procedure with the name first underscore proc. So this is going to be my stored procedure name. So what I am telling, you have to check it if this particular first proc is already present in that particular database or not. So if present, if is it present or it is not present. So if present, what I am telling you, you just drop it, then create it. So what happens now, if it is already present, you are trying to recreate it with the same name, it throws some error. If it is not present, well and good, go ahead and create it. So that is check number 1. So there is one more check number 2. So from data point of view, so I'm going to write this particular stored procedure to check some range of numbers, because in the stored procedure I am going to use between and between some number, some 4 and some 9, between and. So this range I'll be supplying as parameter values. So I have to check, right, the data, if this data is present or not present. If the data is present, then no problem, go ahead and create the procedure. If this data is not present, then there is no point executing the stored procedure. I just need one simple print statement saying that range does not exist. That's it. I don't want to access, process all the stored procedure statements. Just come out of the stored procedure and say that range does not exist. No, if this is displayed, no, I will understand that whatever the range that I am specifying 4 and 9, for that there is no data in the database. I'll change the range, and based on this message I'll change the range and execute the procedure one more time. Yep. So these are the two checks. Check 1, come back, where is it? Okay, check 1, stored procedure check. Where we check this stored procedure, there is one system table called sys.procedures. So in this, as soon as you create your stored procedure, this goes and sits in that particular table. You can know whatever the stored procedure that has been created by you, by somebody else, by some other colleague, everything comes and sits here in this particular table. So with this system table, we are going to check the stored procedure is present or not present. Right, let's go to the stored proc now. So this is the first check actually. If exists sys.procedures where name equal to first proc, then what I am telling, drop it. If exists, drop it. First check is done. The second check is like data checking. Now what I am telling my system, create procedure first proc. After dropping, it is coming here and creating first proc. I'm not, my intention is like I don't want to supply these values as hard coded, and I want to capture them dynamically from Power BI. So that is the reason I'm defining two parameters here. Both are input parameters. If you don't specify whether it is input or output, they are by default input, because I'm not specifying here, they are input. So one is like it starts with yet, at employee number from, that is of integer type, at employee number 2, that is of integer type. Both are integers. As now here comes the data checking. So this one, if exists, so as soon as, say for example, from Power BI I am supplying from as 4, 2 as 6, so those numbers will come here between 4 and 6. So this checks, actually select star from everything it runs, and if exists, yes, data exists, then directly it comes and processes the code, the whole code inside the stored procedure. So it comes here and again it replaces from 4 to 6, it replaces those values and executes. Say for example here, if the data is not exist, then directly it comes out of the stored procedure and prints this particular statement, given range does not exist, so that you can understand clearly that okay, 4 comma 6 I have given, so this range is not available in the database. So let me change it and try. So like that, you know, this stored procedure is going to get executed. Let's see how this is happening. So before that, you know, let's see what is the data that is present in the database. Yeah, I have in the employee table I have 9 records. Let us consider them as 9 million records, huge table, and we are trying to access this 9 million record table in the Power BI. Let us assume we have to say like that in the interview. So this is the same code that I have shown you short while ago. This is the same code. So you know, you just can pause the video and, you know, take down every single step of this. Before that, just ensure that so this examples table is present, examples database is present, and employees table is also present. Okay, I'm going to keep this particular code in the description so that you can easily take it down. Okay, then what I'm trying to do, I don't need all the 9 million records. I need just, you know, from 3, 4, 5 or 3 to 5. Only 3 million records I need. Just execute them. You're going to get what you need. Okay. Say for example, let me give you some range that is not present in the table. So from 10 comma 15 it is not there. So it has to give me, like, you know, given range does not exist. This one it has to show. Let us check this. Yes, from this I can understand I have given some wrong range. So that is up to the database. You are perfect, you are done excellent in the database. Now come back to your Power BI, take some new file. So my Power BI is taking little time, and yep, it's loading. So this kind of depth actually we need to present in the interview so that, you know, so mostly the interviews will get cleared. Okay, now we are going to connect to SQL Server. There are 3 ways. From get data you can connect, from here this icon you can connect, and from here this icon also you can create. Wherever you click, it lands you to the same place. Server name you have to specify, but I have both SQL Server and Power BI both in the same machine, so I just can specify dot. What is my database name? It is examples, right? Yeah, this one, examples. So I have to give my database name, examples. I'm going to use import mode. I want it to be imported. If you click this advanced options, you can write your freehand SQL. What you are going to write here, you just need to know execute statement, and you should know what you are executing, the stored proc name, first proc, and you should know what is the range that you need, 3 to 3 comma 5. That's it. The stored procedure may be containing some 500 lines of code. You're not worried. You just need to know only how to execute that stored procedure. That's it. The headache, all the execution of all 500 lines of code with 10 millions of rows, all the headache should go to the database, not to the Power BI. That's how we are lessening the burden on Power BI and getting the performance from the database. The interviewer sometimes can ask you, how can you ensure that there is less burden on Power BI, and how can you ensure that the burden is is given to the database. This is how we are pushing the burden to the database. The moment you press OK, it's now going to the database and getting the stored procedure executed for 3 4 5, and it is fetching me the result. Just load it. And once the data is loaded, you can create whatever the visuals that you want to create. Yes, so these are all the values, filtered values from the database. So that's how we are integrating both Power BI and stored procedures. Thank you so very much, my dear friends, and this is absolutely, this is worth listening twice, thrice, and practice some time before attending the interview, and present it very properly in the interview. I'm pretty sure that you're going to clear the interview. Thank you very much.